one big issue with this basketball program. What is it? 208-424-9300 as we open up our 5 o'clock hour. Mike Prater in the rowpaint.com studio. Tomorrow we'll be at one of your favorite places, X-Golf Boise. But today we want to talk Boise State. The whole city feels like it's nursing a hangover today, Prater. That was a rough way to go out for the Broncos last night. 21 missed layups, 11% from behind the three-point line is a team. Still had a shot to win, didn't get it done. People are upset. People are happy. People are sad. Some people are even happy that they're moving in a new direction, meaning Max Rice no longer on the team. But we wanted to talk about that one big issue. Yeah, everybody's got them. And there's a lot of issues with this basketball team, which, you know, the context here is that Boise State basketball really has never been in better shape. I truly believe that. And a lot of that has to do with behind the scenes and the resources and everything that Leon Rice wants. I think this roster this past year was, you know, as good, if not as best as it's ever been in the history of this program. They're getting stuff done. They just can't get past this March issue. And what's the one big issue that can fix the March issue? I don't know. I mean, we're not going to come up with anything concrete today, but everybody's got ideas, from firing Leon Rice to you and I talked about geography in the cubicle this morning, and certainly that plays a role in this. Some of them can be fixable. Some of them will never be fixable. Leon Rice isn't a magic man, and he certainly can't get stuff done in March, but lots of issues despite the success, despite the context of this basketball team. I think we can still nitpick it apart. I know I have my one big issue. You have your one big issue. I'd love to hear what fans have to say about their one big issue, because this list could probably be legitimately 4, 5, 6 issues deep. And I don't know if any of them are as important as the other ones. No, I mean, negative Sid starts. He says Coach Rice is the issue, and the roster is too slow, and it's not deep enough. There's 3 reasons there from negative Sid. What's a big issue with this basketball program? Yeah, Sid only gets 1, but you read 3. The depth thing, I've seen a lot of that today. And I'm not a big basketball guy. I mean, I'm not a smart basketball guy at all. I'm not a big basketball fan. I don't watch a lot of basketball. I'm not invested emotionally in basketball. It just doesn't do it for me. But that said, you're a hockey geek. Well, no, I'm a college football geek and a pro football geek. But with that said, I've seen so many people today talking about bench play. Leon Rice, I think, worked magic in the second half of this season, getting his bench developed. I think he did a great job early in the season, maybe got away with it a little bit. And later on, I think he came up with some creative ways. Guys, if you're sitting here blaming Boise State, and it's 0-10 NCAA record, and that's really all we're trying to fix here. We're not trying to change the world. We're trying to fix a March tournament basketball record, 0-10. Look at the tournaments, man. It's not about depth. Every coach, 68 coaches, are shortening their bench when it comes to the tournament. Last week in conference play, even more so now in the national tournament, you rely on your 5, your 6, your 7 stars. And I don't think bench is an issue with this basketball team. And that's just an opinion. Nothing is right. Nothing is wrong in this conversation. But I think that's crazy. Yeah. And I don't want to see RJ Keene or Sam Winter or even Kobe Young or, Andrew Meadow. I'd like to have seen him play more than 5 minutes last night. But I trust Leon Rice to play the players that he needs. If you go to an NCAA game with 6 prominent players, I'm okay with that. I think when it comes to fixing the March track record, the depth and the lack of bench is the last thing on my list. I can have 2 bench players. As long as they're as good as my starters, then yes, we have a bench. The problem isn't that, hey, they need more players coming off the bench. I think they need better players coming off the bench. And that's with every team in America. Hardly any teams play 9 or 10 players, certainly not in big, important games. And if you do, then good for you. You're able to develop that culture. I don't think bench is a big thing either. I got mine. What's your one big issue with Boise State basketball? Tommy, you're first up on the Double Tap Pub hotline. Go for it.
Well, I'm going to overextend my welcome, and I'm going to say 2. One is recruiting. We have developed from freshmen to upperclassmen in the last how many years? 2 players, Chandler Hutchinson and Tyson Dagenhart. You need 2 players a year, not 2 players in 7 years. So, and the transfer portal is great. It's the future of college basketball. But teams that make good, deep conference tournament and NCAA tournament wins And I'm talking about forget about getting me to Sunday. Get me to the second weekend. That's a successful NCAA tournament win. You need to get kids who are good players as freshmen, get them minutes off the bench. That solves a little bit of your depth problem. And I think it's 8, not 7, but that's just my opinion. And I think it's recruiting younger players and developing them. Part 2 of that is games you lose in March are games you did not play in November and December.
See, I think you're wrong there, dude. They played the best non-conference schedule in school history, and they tested themselves against really good opponents in early times. They took a beating from the media. They took a beating from fans. They took a beating in their metrics because they went to all those games. Now you have to start winning them, but I disagree with you. They played, and they were ready to play in this game because they played tougher competition early on in the season. I completely disagree with you on that one.
It's the best schedule in school history. Yes, you're right about that. But they need to consistently play that schedule. And I think Prater, they may have played better teams this year, but going to pre-conference tournaments, that's really not the answer. You can maybe have one, and if they had more than one, then I'm wrong. But you need to be playing. You are in an area where you could play what used to be Pac-12 teams. You could play. Why aren't you playing BYU, Arizona State, maybe Arizona? Going to SoCal. You could go to SoCal over a long weekend, and you could schedule maybe a Long Beach State and a USC or a UCLA. You got to get them to play you, but I don't think that would be a problem because bigger teams, even if it's Cal.
All right,
yeah,
Tommy,
get rid of that guy.
Appreciate you,
yeah,
Prater. That was frustrating for you.
He was bugging me. He only got one, and his second one was stupid.
Let's go to Travis. Travis, you're on the Double Tap Pub hotline. What you got, Trav?
Yeah, hey, you guys are talking about bench players and depth, and we don't really have any, and we could, but we aren't playing our players. There's a select 5 or 6 that constantly play most of the game, if not all the game. But you look at Andrew Meadows, who gets 3-4 minutes a game
times 3 or 4. Okay. Oh, total.
Well, okay. I mean, sure. Give him 5. I mean, hell, give him 5, right? You got a freshman, a true freshman, and you're playing him 5 minutes a game.
11.
Like, how are we developing players here?
Because you're gonna lose then.
Home game. No, I was at a home game where we're up by 25 and we've got our starters in.
Yep.
And we explained that. We explained that several times on this show based on the college basketball rules and the metrics. And Leon Rice stood at a press conference one night and apologized for having to play 6 players every single game, all the way up till 2 minutes to go in the game, because that's what the NCAA wants with these metrics. He was trying to build his NCAA resume. I just told you guys that depth and bench is not an issue.
How do you get better? How do you get better? If you can't,
Leon Rice did better with his bench and his depth than he's ever done before at Boise State. He developed his bench. He developed his depth this year. He had 7, 8, 9 players at certain times. And when you get to the postseason, I just told you, nobody plays more than 5, 6, or 7 players.
Yeah, Travis, you really think like, hey, Andrew Meadow might be better.
Regular season, God, we are killing it.
Why? I mean, why do you get
the Mountain West playoff?
Turn him down, JP. This guy's a dill hole. Don't you trust Leon and the staff that Andrew Meadows not as good as Chibuzo Abo right now? What, you got to see them all play? Why do you have to see that? These guys see them every day in practice.
So, boys,
you want RJ? This is not the YMCA. Not everybody gets to play the same amount of minutes. You earn those minutes, Travis. Andrew Meadow played 11 minutes. I don't think he played a minute or 2 more than he should have this year. I thought he was developed just fine as a true freshman in college football.
Yeah, I mean, Boise State's 0-10 in the NCAA tournament, and people are complaining about backup players.
Yes, I need to see more Andrew Meadow. How do you know he might be really good? Trust me, they see him play more than just in the game, Travis. Let's get to Brandon. Brandon, welcome to the show. What do you have? What's the one big issue with Boise State basketball for you?
More consistent guard play, because I think on the big side, I think we're good. If Agbo comes back and we get Degenhart to not go to the draft. I think we're good on that side of the ball. And on top of that, we got redshirt Chris Lockett coming from my state of Louisiana coming in. So, I mean, I'm thankful for what happened this year, and I'm really looking forward to next year. I wish we had a baseball team so I could have something to watch.
Appreciate the call, man.
Don't need a baseball team at Boise State, but I totally agree with what he said about the guard play. And my issue, and I'll just get it out of the way before we take a break. Then we come back. I want to hear yours, Johnny, and then we can get some more calls. I need better guard play, but specifically I need better shooting. And last night was a classic example of that. We've given you the numbers. I don't have to sit here and repeat them. And it happens over and over and over again, whether it's pre-conference, non-conference, preseason, postseason, whatever. Boise State has issues with shooting. Let me give you a couple of issues here. Back in the day when Jeff Aloriaga and Nick Duncan and Justinian Jessup were playing, those guys were great basketball players and at times led the league in shooting. At one point, Boise, and at that time, I know the Marks and the Duncan team were pretty good, but I think that this year's basketball team is much better, minus the shooting factor. They don't have shooting. As a matter of fact, shooting under Leon Rice in the last 5 years has gone downhill. In 19 and 20, they were 7th in the conference in shooting. In 2021 and 22, they were 6th. And last year, they were 5th. This year, they were 9th in shooting. 4 of the last 5 years have been the 4 of the most worst shooting teams in Boise State basketball history, all under 45%. It's absolutely horrible. So if you could give me a Jeff Aloriaga or give me a Nick Duncan I really liked Justinian Jessup, who kind of, he was kind of like the Max Rice before Max Rice. He was very polarizing. He was a great shooter, but maybe he was slow here, maybe he was slow there, maybe not a great defender. Justinian Jessup was a beast. If you put Justinian Jessup on this year's roster, I promise you they're playing Friday against the Florida Gators.
Now, what's your one big issue? Keep it to one that's wrong with this basketball program.
Shooting.
208-424-9300. But yeah, no, it's RJ Keene and Andrew Meadow need to get the exact same amount of minutes as Max Rice and Buzo Abo, because we don't know if they're going to be good or not. They see them play all the time. Those guys earn their minutes. I can't be more frank than I am on that. It is not an issue of they don't have enough good players. There were good enough players on this team this year to still be playing. What's the bigger issue you have with this program? We'll get to the calls and more texts when we come back on Prater in the Ballgame.
From the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Studios, this is